And our plum lessons so I have one for our daily verse. We're now at Leviticus chapter 5 in verse 11 up to verse 13. If you are so poor that you cannot afford doves or pigeons, you may bring 1 kilogram of your finest flour. This is a sacrifice to us, my forgiveness. So, don't sprinkle olive oil or sweet-smelling incense on it. Give the flour to a priest who will scoop up a handful and set it up in smoke together with the other offerings. This is a reminder that all of the flour belongs to me. By offering this sacrifice, the priest pays the price for any of these sins you may have committed. The priest gets the rest of the flour, just as he does with grain sacrifices. So this passage is about what if that person belonged to the so-called the poorest among the poor. Meaning they can't afford to offer doves, they can't afford to offer the bull, the sheep, the goat, or any animals that can't be offered. So for them to be forgiven in the Old Testament, they offer flour as a sacrificial offering. So this means that God is so sensitive of the social status of His children, of His nation. Some of them can afford to offer some animals for them to be forgiven, and some of them can't afford even animals. So what they can afford is only flour. Yet they too deserve the mercy of God, right? So God did, or should we say, God gave them also His mercy by allowing them to offer the flour, or allowing them to offer their flour. But let us remember, we are no longer in the Old Testament. We are now in the New Testament, right? So we must realize that those might be considered as social classes. Example, those who can only afford the flour, we can consider them as the poorest among the poor. And of course, here is the average poor who can only afford a pigeon or a dove. Okay? And some middle class who can afford the goat or the sheep. And of course, the wealthy who can afford the bull or the cow. So, different social classes, right? Well, theoretically speaking, is that we firmly believe that those who can offer the bull is financially stable or financially wealthier, or in their social standing is higher than those who can only offer the flour. Okay? But whether you can only offer the flour or you can offer the bull, you all need forgiveness from God, right? Regardless whether you belong to the wealthiest of the wealthy, so should we say the cream of the crop of the society, meaning the leader and maybe even the priest who lead his people, or you belong to the poorest among the poor, then you must realize that the forgiveness of God is for all social classes. Whether you belong to the poorest of the poor or you belong to the cream of the crop of the society. In front of God, all of them, or should we say all of us, deserve the forgiveness of God, right? Because we must realize in front of God, Whether you belong to the cream of the crop of the society or you belong to the lowest social classes or also known as the poorest among the poor, then know for sure that in front of God, we are all sinner. Okay? We are all sinner. We all need the forgiveness of God. That's why in the New Testament, we need the power of the blood of Christ for us to be forgiven. Because don't be misled. It doesn't mean that you are wealthy that you don't need Christ. No, you still need Christ for you to be forgiven by God. And it is a false testimony, or should we say false teaching, that the poor is the only person who need God. No. Whether you are rich or you are poor, in front of God, you still need Him. You still need His grace. You still need His forgiveness. You still need the blood of Christ to purify your sin, regardless of your social class. Okay? Regardless whether you are the cream of the cup of the society or you belong to the poorest of the poor. So, you need Christ. Okay? You need the power of the blood of Christ for you to be purified from your sin.